Women want to be they want to be taken care of. I know this is like super provocative, but like deep down, they want a man to be able to provide for them financially.
Should a man pay on the first date?
100%. Like, what kind of a wuss beta male is splitting the check? But like, who are you? It's like, I'm just sorry. It's so. I would go into debt and like scrub dishes before a woman paid for it.
So yesterday, Charlie Kirk was shot and murdered on a campus in Utah in America. Hit his neck, blood is splattering. If you've seen the video, it's extremely graphic. Charlie Kirk was a very strong and bold voice in America. Conservative, an ally of Donald Trump, very passionately Christian, very passionately pro-Israel.
It's called Judea and Samaria. It's not called Palestine.
You don't believe that Palestine have the right to exist?
No, everyone has a right to exist. Show me where it is. It's a non-existent place.
Passionate for gun laws.
I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
The right to bear arms. Very passionately pro-life. I'd like to think he was openly homophobic. And he polarized and he gaslit a lot of people.
I go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
Some of his utterings around gun laws being like, look, there will be some deaths, which are unfortunate, but you know, we still need gun laws.
So then how do you reduce? Very simple. People say, oh, Charlie, how do you stop school shootings? I don't know. How did we stop shootings at baseball games? Because we have armed guards outside of baseball games. That's why.
Some of his utterings around the killings of women and children in Palestine and in Gaza, blaming Hamas and not Israel, really leaving a bitter taste in people's mouths. There's aggressive debates he had recently, I think, on Jubilee.
But honestly, in the case of her being a 10-year-old pregnant and he won't let her get medical help, that's just wild to me. I can't believe that.
Where he was even speaking about if young children get sexually assaulted, they must not be allowed to abort those children unless their own lives are in danger.
How do you want to be remembered?
I mean, if I die,
everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith in my life.
The assassination of Charlie Kirk has shaken America. And while many debate his politics, his legacy, his controversies, there's one truth that must rise above all else. A family has lost a husband, a father, and a son. Even if you disagreed with his ideas, or found him polarizing, or even thought his words were too sharp, you lose nothing in offering compassion to his family, to his innocent children. In fact, you gain something priceless, the chance to affirm your own humanity. When tragedy strikes, our first response should be humanity, not political division. Iryna, a Ukrainian refugee seeking safety and hope, was brutally stabbed, leaving a family devastated. But showing compassion for Iryna is not a betrayal. It's an affirmation of her dignity and the universal value of life. At the same time, awaiting the outcome of the judicial process for Da Carlos, the man accused, is not injustice, and the courts must weigh evidence and hold him accountable if warranted. History reminds us that this balance works. In 2018, when Nia Wilson was killed, the judicial system acted and justice was served. We lose nothing in compassion for victims, and we gain the moral clarity to honor both grief and justice, proving empathy is strength, not weakness.
This Charlie Kirk thing kind of put the nail in the coffin of me being a Democrat. Democrat. I was slowly moving away from it anyway because I was noticing certain things, but I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not a Republican either, but I'm not a Democrat. And I just noticed, like, certain things, like the way that the conversation would be shut down by calling somebody a name or calling somebody a bigot. It's like, okay, and why am I a bigot just because I disagree with you? Like, I can disagree with you and still not want anything bad for you. I just disagree. And it's like, oh, you're personally committing violence against me if you disagree. It's like, that's a cop-out. And I would notice certain things like that. I would notice that I was being intentionally angered every 4 years so that I would go out and vote. It would be a new token thing to like get behind. Oh, if you don't vote this year, this thing's gonna happen and everything's gonna be taken away. But then the next year, none of those things would happen. So I was just being gaslit every single time. And it's crazy because like I didn't recognize it, but as I started to just see it, I started to see how like it's one thing to believe in something, it's another thing to tell somebody they're bad if they don't, especially if the view is wacky, crazy, and all the way out there. Canceling somebody for something that they did when they was 8 years old, for something that they said when they was 8 years old, and that thing wasn't even a slur back then. It's like, what do we like do? Like, people can't grow, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's a way to keep people in control. And if you don't think exactly how I think, if you ever step in line, I can just like, take away, you know what I'm trying to say? And it was just very controlling, but just very evil. And like the moral superiority, the moral high horse, and the performative activism was crazy. Like, oh, we are so oppressed, and go, like ride the Starbucks. It's like there's actually people that are in different countries, and like that's very disrespectful to them to say that you're oppressed like that. Like, I would debate people down. And here's the thing, I had to come to realization that like I would go online to see what I should feel about a subject instead of actually saying what I did feel about the subject, to see what they were saying, and I would hop on it. And I had to be honest, I was hopping on bandwagons. And yes, it was when I was younger, but as I just grew older, I'm like, this not it. And finally, when it comes to the death of somebody, it's like, it doesn't matter who they are, it doesn't matter what they think. Nobody deserves that. I could see if you just heard about it, but you saw it on camera and you still saying you ain't sad about it. That's like, your humanity is now lost. Like, politics is making like some of them crazy. And that's why I was just like, oh, y'all are drinking Kool-Aid right now, and I'm not gonna drink that. Like, I'm gonna just walk off. And that's one of the reasons why, and it's the nail in the coffin, because if you are so politicked out that you cannot cry with somebody unalive, you're not as moral as you think you are. Sorry.
Why are American politics so divisive? Polarization, extremism, and the future.
Well, everything you've heard just now from Donald is not true. I'm sorry I have to keep saying this, but he lives in an alternative reality. And it is sort of amusing to hear somebody who hasn't paid federal income taxes in maybe 20 years talking about what he's going to do. But I'll tell you what he's going to do. His plan will give the wealthy and corporations the biggest tax cuts they've ever had.
American politics feel more divided than ever. From Twitter fights to congressional battles, it seems impossible for Americans to entertain opposing viewpoints without insults or outrage.
Whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. What they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the...
But why is this happening? Where are the moderates? And what fuels the extremes? Today we're breaking down the causes of political polarization in America and what the future may hold.
A little bit of breaking news for you here. If you are born in the United States, you are an American. That is not breaking news. That is something that is written in our Constitution and has been true for the duration of our republic. That said, when Donald Trump was sworn in for his second term 30 days ago, he signed an executive order that proclaimed that to no longer be true.
Political polarization isn't brand new, but it has intensified over the last few decades.
Well, Senator, this is an evolution, and I know you've been asked about this before, about past comments that you've made about Donald Trump. You've said, I'm a never Trump guy, never liked him. terrible candidate, idiot if you voted for him, might be America's Hitler, might be a cynical a-hole, cultural heroine, noxious and reprehensible.
I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think
American politics did not become divisive overnight. The shift towards all or nothing, zero-sum debates has roots in the late 20th century. While the two-party system has existed since the 19th century, polarization intensified in the 1970s and 1980s due to ideological realignment. Southern Democrats gradually shifted to the Republican Party following the Civil Rights era.
I'm seated here with Senator Jack Kennedy. As a Negro and as an American, I have many questions, and I'm sure everyone does, about civil rights, about foreign policy, about the economy of the country, and about things that will happen.
And I want to make it very clear, Harry, that on this question of equality of opportunity for all Americans, whether it's in the field of civil rights, better minimum wages, better housing, better working conditions, jobs, I stand for these things. The Democratic Party under Franklin Roosevelt stood for them.
I'm voting for this, Senator. How about you?
Vote for a leader like Roosevelt. Vote for John F. Kennedy for president.
While liberal and progressive voters consolidated in the Democratic Party.
In 2016, you said that. I'm going to surround myself with only the best and most serious people.
Well, I did do that.
This
and we had tremendous, look, we had the best economy we've ever had.
This
the world
time
has ever seen.
Your Vice President, Mike Pence, is running against you.
Yeah.
Your Ambassador to the United Nations, Nikki Haley, she's running against you. Your former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, said he's not supporting you.
The rise of 24-hour cable news, partisan talk radio, and later social media amplified extreme voices, rewarding outrage over compromise. By the 1990s and early 2000s, Americans increasingly sorted themselves along ideological lines, creating the political environment where debates are framed as winner-take-all battles, leaving moderates marginalized and national unity undermined. The 2020s have become the most divisive decade in recent American history due to a combination of social, technological, and political factors.
The Democratic Party needs a wake-up call. I see law firms bending a knee to this president, not caring about the larger principles, that those free speech rights, that you could take on any client, why are you bending the knee? I see universities that should be bastions of free speech bending at the knee to this president. I see businesses taking late-night talk show hosts off the air because they dare to insult a president. I see people who want mergers suddenly think that they have to pay tribute to this president. And what are the very people here elected to defend the Constitution of the United States saying, oh, well, today, let's look the other way and pass some resources that won't go to Connecticut, that won't go to Illinois, that won't go to New York, that will go to the states he likes.
Social media algorithms now amplify outrage and sensationalism, creating echo chambers where opposing viewpoints are rarely heard or considered. The COVID-19 pandemic and its associated policies, from mask mandates to vaccine requirements, created stark cultural and political fault lines. Additionally, debates over racial justice, gender rights, immigration, and election integrity have been increasingly framed as existential battles rather than policy disagreements.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
Politicians and media outlets often exploit these divisions to energize their base, rewarding extreme rhetoric over compromise, Combined, these factors have created a political environment in the 2020s where polarization is deeper, faster, and more emotionally charged than in previous decades.
Mr. Speaker, you guys are so weak that you won't even vote to release the files. It's 11:20 p.m. in the middle of the night, and the gentlelady will suspend. The gentlelady will suspend. The House is not in order.
The two-party system in the United States has historically produced compromise, but recent decades have seen ideological sorting, Democrats becoming more liberal and Republicans becoming more conservative.
Brand Cortez, come up and speak. Thanks, Cortez.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
There have been key moments like the civil rights movement, the Reagan-era policies, and the rise of cable news in the 1980s, which have set the stage for modern partisan divides. Social media cannot be underestimated. It has accelerated this trend of creating echo chambers where Americans mostly hear the voices that confirm their belief systems. Why do Americans insist on insulting each other?
I voted for Trump, but I certainly will not be doing that again.
When did Trump lose your support?
The nail in the coffin for me with Donald Trump?
Let me guess. Charlottesville.
No.
What? Okay, let me guess.
You're not going to guess it.
Kids in cages.
Nope.
The insurrection, January 6th.
Nope.
Why can't Americans debate without insults? Well, there's tribalism. Political identity has become part of personal identity. Challenging a belief now feels like a personal attack.
Only 2 states in the entire country voted unanimously across every county for the same presidential candidate. Trump won all the counties in Oklahoma, and Harris won all the counties in Massachusetts. And when you compare these states side by side, you really start to wonder why people aren't voting for Democrats. The all-Trump state of Oklahoma is 44th in education, 49th in healthcare, 44th in quality of life, and dead last 50th in test scores. And when you look at Massachusetts, they are 1st in education, 2nd in healthcare, 1st in quality of life, and 1st in test scores. Kind of hard to argue for Oklahoma here. And
there's media incentives. Outrage drives clicks and ad revenue. Extreme voices get amplified, while moderate voices are drowned out. There's confirmation bias. People gravitate to the information that confirms their worldview and dismiss any opposing facts.
You know, I spend my summers at the Jersey Shore. Jersey Shore is definitely pro-Trump, for sure. I mean, you go to Atlantic City, where he used to have a casino, and it's like every boat has got the Trump. But New Jersey typically votes blue. And you saw Trump went on his, he gets the weekends off from his trial. Did you see the crowds? They estimated 100,000. I don't know whether it was 100,000 or not. It's irrelevant what the actual number was. For sure, it was tens of thousands. Look at this.
There's social media algorithms. Platforms tend to reward sensationalism, making debates more performative and less constructive. The result is a cycle where disagreement quickly becomes disrespect and dialogue breaks down.
Jack Smith, Fannie Willis, because you're going to get a lot more just like it.
So where are the moderates? Moderates in America still exist, but they're shrinking as a political force.
It is going to have a terrible impact on nursing homes, community health centers, rural hospitals all over America. Very briefly, is that really making America healthy again?
Centrist voters often feel frustrated and overlooked by both parties. Primaries and polarization. Extreme voters dominate primaries, pushing candidates further from the center.
Federal dollars into rural health care in American history. Yeah, you know why? Because you're cutting 150.
Then there's media invisibility. moderates are rarely making headlines, so their voices seem scarce. Without strong centrist representation, politics become an endless tug-of-war between the extremes, leaving compromise almost impossible. So what fuels extremism?
Brooklyn is blue, Queens is blue, the Bronx is blue, and he's got nowhere to go. And so he's decided to come to the South Bronx. He's broke. He needs to pay these legal funds and, bussing people in order to get those donations so that he can funnel them to his legal fees is kind of his business right now.
Because extremism in American politics is driven by several factors, like economic anxiety, job loss, wage stagnation, and inequality make people receptive to radical solutions. Then there's cultural identity. Debates about race, gender, religion, and national identity are highly emotional, creating fertile ground for polarization. Then there's misinformation and conspiracy theories. Social media spreads false narratives, convincing people that the other side is dangerous or illegitimate.
Everything has changed. If we didn't know it already, there is no longer any middle ground. Some on the American left are undoubtedly well-meaning people, but their ideology is pure evil.
Then there are political incentives. Polarized electorates reward candidates who take extreme positions instead of those who compromise. These forces combine to push both ends of the spectrum towards more extreme rhetoric and actions, while moderate voices struggle to be heard. So what does this mean for the future? Scenario 1, continued polarization. If the trend continues, we may see deeper gridlock, partisan hostility, and even threats to democratic norms. In scenario 2, potential realignment. Economic or social crises could push Americans towards pragmatic centrism or new political movements. Then there's scenario 3, generational change. Younger generations may be less ideologically rigid, but social media and cultural divides still shape political engagement. The key takeaway is that the future of American politics depends on whether citizens, media, and leaders can restore civility, trust, and compromise, or whether polarization continues to define the system. In conclusion, American politics today are loud, divisive, and often toxic. But understanding the roots of polarization, the role of extremism, and the scarcity of moderates is the first step toward change. Dialogue, empathy, and civic engagement could make a difference, but it requires effort from everyone. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. What do you think the future of American politics will look like? Drop your comments below.